Welcome to part 2 of the Ninja Tactics video. I'm doing this video after the launch because I felt like there was a little bit more to touch on with the Ninja Tactics of the Pilgrim. In my first video I covered a lot about the fighting style, the way you're going to take your fights and the way you're going to execute your fights in the game, which is very valuable, and usually that's what I would leave it at for most of my guides. So that's all you really need to know how to do is to execute a good fight. You need to know the strategy and the tactics and the different ways you can get your enemy to weaken themselves or to expose themselves to be killed. But I think with the Ninja Pilgrim guide we also have to talk about a couple other things that are very similar to the opportunities video you'll see further down the page. But in the opportunities video I talk about the different ways that you can get kills when you're using this Pilgrim. And yes, Windows, we're going to keep the same color scheme. Okay, so different ways you can get kills, different things you can do, different counters you can use against your enemies to try to stay one step ahead of them. So let's play out a quick scenario. You come into a system, right? You jump in. That is not at all what I wanted. You jump in through the gate, okay? And there is a station over here and a belt over here. Okay, so you come into system, you use your directional scanner, and you find a ratting ship of some sort over here in the belt, and you kill it. Okay, so let's say this is the first time you go into a system that you plan on really stalking and hunting this group that lives in this system, or just the system. I mean, for example, you could do this in somewhere like Thera or something where there's lots of entities that you could hunt, and you know, it doesn't have to be so personalized. It can be just anybody. But let's say you've picked out a nice little pocket deep in nullsec, somewhere where people rat a lot. You use .land to figure out which systems have the most ratting. Pretty easy to do. Just search Google for .land and .land Eve maps, and then they have a little ratting feature where you can see the most ratting in the last 24 hours. They also have statistics pages that'll show you all that stuff. And you can find yourself a nice place near you, or relatively near you, where you can go and spend some time. Now, you go to your belt, you kill something, or let's say this could be an anomaly because people don't use belts anymore hardly. They still do very rarely. I find people there sometimes, but you're far more likely to find them in an anomaly. Anyway, so anomaly or belt, you find a ship here, and you kill that ship. So that ship is dead, gone, right? So that ship's dead. What you're likely to see next, and what I would typically do, is I would warp over here to a tactical on this station, right? And usually it's above, sometimes it's over here on the side, and sometimes it's wherever else. But I'd warp to a tactical. Now, if I didn't have a tactical in this system, and I've never been to this system, then we're going to have to take a little side conversation here and talk about a different tactic. Is the moment you come into a system, yes, look for kills. But one of your first priorities, if you're going to be spending any time in a system, is setting up tacticals. You can refer to the Stations 101 video I did just a few days ago. That's a good description of what you need to do, but let's just expand it a little bit. The first thing you want to do, or is very soon once you get in the system, is you want to go ahead and get a tactical above the station to 300 kilometers, a instant undock spot to 300 kilometers straight out from the undock so that you can escape any station camps that they have. You want a tactical on every gate to 300 kilometers above, below, to the side, whatever, of every gate, just so long as it's not in a warp path that's going to likely be bubbled, because you don't want to put a tactical 300k off a gate in the direction of the station and then find out one time when you're warping to that tactical that someone has a bubble from station to gate and you're dead. So make sure it's not within any warp lines. Get your tacticals. You want a tactical on every gate, a tactical on the station that your enemy lives in, If they live in multiple stations, you'll have to do it for multiple stations. Instant undocks for all the stations you might dock in. And then you also want to have at least 2 safe spots. The reason you have 2 safe spots is so that you can watch different parts of the system at different times. I will usually put one safe spot near the most active gate in the system. It's usually the entrance gate to that pocket. I'll usually put one roughly, 7. It's not quite a 7, is it? 7 AU, roughly, from the entrance gate. And then maybe over here by the station, you have a gate into a side system, as well as maybe there's a lot of belts and anomalies that spawn over in this area, in which case I would then have another one much closer to the gate usually. I'd have one on the station, and then I'd have one usually within about 3. That's not what I wanted. About 3 AU from the gate. So what you want is you want multiple safe spots so that you can go to a safe spot and safely cloak up for hours at a time. Make them think that they don't know when you're there. Sometimes you're there, sometimes you're not. So, like I use this example a lot, but let's say that, let's just use a new one. You come home from work. You log in to Eve, and the first thing you want to do whenever you log in is search for kills. Search for kills first in the main system you log into, and then immediately after that, go check the side systems. So if you don't find anything in the first system, they're still going to assume you're logged out or you're AFK. As soon as you jump to another system, they're going to think that you're actually that you're there. They're going to know that you're there. But because they're taken by surprise, when you first get back to your computer is when you have the best chances for kills. And not only that, but when you first log in for the day, so no matter when that happens to be, but the first time you log into that system, that's another great opportunity for kills. It's because they're with you not in system at all, they're going to be at their highest level of feeling safe to where they're going to be out running anomalies, mining, whatever else, and that's a great time to strike. So that's enough talk about tacticals and logging in, logging out. But basically, if you're there sometimes, you're not there sometimes, they get to the point to where they say, well, I'm not going to spend all day in station. I'm going to go out and rat. Screw this guy. He's AFK anyway. And then that's when you kill him, is when you check your computer, in between chores or whatever else. So back to our example. You kill somebody in the belt when you first come into the system. Then you warp your tactical on the station, right? And what you're likely to see is you're likely to see them undocking some kind of ships out here at the station. That's not what I wanted. Some kind of ships out here to get revenge. You're going to see that motive a lot in EVE Online. People are going to want revenge, and usually what they're going to do is they're either just going to undock a bunch of stuff and show how tough they are on the undock, or more than likely they're going to be smart about it, or try to be smart about it, and they're going to undock something that's a little baity, like a Drake or a Prophecy, a Mauler, maybe even something like a Procurer or a tanky mining barge, and they're going to warp it, possibly to the belt where you just killed something, or the anomaly, if they want to be real obvious about it, or more often they'll probably warp it to one of the common gates that they think you'll be able to see. And sometimes one of the more baity things they'll do is they'll warp it in at like 50 kilometers and leave it obviously out exposed to where it's in danger, and it's very obvious. And so bait's going to be the next thing they try. And when they try the bait, you're going to be smart about it. You're not going to take the bait. When they try to bait you, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to watch and try to find an opportunity to kill them even though they're baiting. So look for some stupid mistake they've done. Maybe watch and see that they've bubbled themselves on the station, and then go kill the bait. Or if you see that this guy is sitting here at 50 and there's a bubble that would drag from the station over here if they were to come from the station, but this guy, had already burned 50 off the gate or something, and they're going to get caught in the bubble and not be able to warp to this guy. Well, maybe that's an option. You could go ahead and engage, and they've kind of set themselves up to where they can't actually reinforce their guy. Or what I would usually do when I saw bait is I would do completely the opposite of what they would want me to do, take the bait, and I would go into, a system, the side system over here. And I would jump into the side system and try to kill something there. Because if they're baiting over here, right, if they're baiting with the ship right here, they're not looking over here or thinking anything's going to happen over here in this system. But if something does happen, they're ready for it. So whatever you engage, it has to be a quick hit and run style attack. So keep that in mind. But basically, you want to constantly think one move ahead of your opponent, like chess. Flying the Pilgrim is a lot like chess. And you want to have the system set up so that the system works for you. You want to make the most out of your cloak. And you want to take risks sometimes, even if it's a little baity, so long as it's not too baity. Like, let's say the distance between here and here is 80 AU. Don't rule out the possibility that people are bad baiters. They're bad at baiting. And let's say that it's a Vexer baiting right here. And this Vexer is not 8 AU, 80 AU. Is something you think you might be able to take. So you just pull up your directional. You stay at 20 kilometers. You stay out here at 20. And he can't point you or web you because you've got him cap dead. You're hitting him hard, and you're watching your directional scanner all the while ready to align and warp to either a belt, customs office, planet, safe spot, whatever. You're ready should you see anything show up on directional or should anything uncloak around you. So you go ahead and you take the bait anyway, because even if they try to get you, the only thing that's going to be able to get on grid before you can really notice it in most cases is going to be an interceptor. And even if there's a little interceptor here, you can just task 2 of your newts to it, or even 1 usually, and kill his point. And even if you can't kill his point, you can certainly kill his micro warp drive. So all you have to do is hit your micro warp drive and keep newting until his point drops or he drops off too far to where he's out of point range and you can easily warp away. So make the most out of isolations. The same isolations I teach in the isolation guide. Guides below. I think it's in the Back to Basics area. It's the same stuff I taught way back with the anti-interceptor stuff in the Frigate Pro Guide. Is use your isolations. You've got your warp distance isolation. You've got your grid distance isolation, which is try to engage 100K off the fleet. So pull stuff off the fleet to where you're not far enough to warp to, but too far to burn to or apply damage. That's another isolation. Use gates for isolations. So, for example, let's get rid of some of this stuff. All right. So, for example, if there was a little camp set up right here on this gate, you could jump in or just uncloak here, get some aggro, and then jump across back to the other side. Half the ships probably are going to be aggroed and unable to jump for 60 seconds. The other half will be able to jump and will follow you. Once you're on the other side, you burn in a straight line away from the gate. They chase, and as they're chasing, you kill them, like I talked about in the first tactics video. And you use a combination of all these things, plus some things that you're just going to discover through trial and error, and they become instinctual from doing them, and you just start to spot things, like I talked about with stragglers in the opportunities video. You start to spot opportunities the more you do it. And knowing about them in the first place helps a lot. But once you know about them, you still have to try to practice and think about it and remind yourself to be able to see them in game and see those opportunities. And that's pretty much it for the second tactics video. I didn't want to make it too long. Didn't want to take up a ton of time with it, but I felt like I didn't address some of these topics as well as I should have in the first video. So just to be sure you got it, I wanted to make this video and add it to the guide. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get out there and get tons of kills using these tactics, because this ship's it's a ton of fun. It's a hugely fun. I don't know how something can be hugely fun, but it's a very fun ship that I enjoyed a lot flying this summer, and even my alliance was kind of joking about how I was always in the Pilgrim, and every fleet we went to I would show up in a Pilgrim. It's a great ship, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please leave some comments. Let me know how you like the guide.